Hey y'all, welcome back to Mama Monday video here. I'm excited for all of you to be starting to really get more engaged here. I'm seeing a lot of likes, follows, subscribing, sharing the videos, getting a lot of feedback from more than just women who are watching these and really wanting to dive deep into this topic and point around becoming a parent, or what many women view it as becoming a mom or mama. So that's kind of the gist of why I call this Mama Mondays. And this all started pretty much once I started using TT, and I've always really wanted to be a mom. I actually spoke with my mom the other day and was digging into some of the big moments in my 0 to 7 years of my life when I was a child, and listening to how much I interacted with my sibling, who was 5 years younger than me, really carry them around when they were a baby. I mean, just did all these nurturing things, right? And played with dolls like way beyond any other friend of mine or non-friend of mine played with dolls as a kid. Just many different things, right? So I used to be like, I'm destined to become a mom because, like, look at all these things that are showing me that I should be a mom. And I never really looked at it until the last almost 6 months now. So it's probably been about 6 months. And I started looking at my programming, which there's videos on that. So if you haven't gone back to the beginning and looked through a lot of the different programming videos, listened to those, just heard my story as far as like what I walked through in my process and how I got to this point where I am now, or where we are now. And then there's also a few videos that I've done more recently that are on specifically clarity, gaining clarity. How do you become clear? Why do you want to become a mom or a parent? What are your visions, or your vision as a family, your purpose, principles, looking at your programming, all of those things. And if we're not digging into that, it makes it really hard for us to be clear. So there's not necessarily a rhyme or reason as to why I recorded and posted the way I did. It was just kind of what was natural for me. But as you go through your step in your process, as you see a certain video that I'm doing or that we're doing here with the podcast or the YouTube channel, please feel free to kind of jump around or take a look at different videos, because whether it's something that I've shared or it's something that you hear in one of the women's walking interviews that I've done with other women who are also walking this process, they might not be at the same stage as me. I might not be at the same stage as them in different points of our lives, but we are still walking the same process, and we are walking together, and we are in community, we are friends, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So those are kind of all the resources that I'll point out to you for now. The last video I did, just to kind of recap, was on just quick showing a bunch of different books and educational resources that I have been reading or just want to read, things like that. And I can say that in the last week I have read so much. more than I probably have read in a while. I mean, I read often, but I used to read so slow, like 5 minutes per page, that it wasn't enjoyable for me. I couldn't really get into it. I didn't invest enough time. I didn't set some time aside, all of that. So now, with where I'm at and being fully at home and supporting Seth and growing our family, I I have found a brand new rhythm to life and to process, to using TT, being involved with Self Perfected and hosting here and things like that. So it takes time. It doesn't come overnight, and some things happen a lot sooner than others. It just depends on the overall dynamics of your relationship and your situation and how much you invest in digging into that programming around those points. So, as far as all of that, if there's specific questions or you have things you want to share, like the last one, I asked people to kind of share maybe books or resources that they have or that they've been using as a mom or going through parenthood or pregnancy, things like that. So for this one, I will just say if there's specific people that you are listening to, as far as maybe YouTube, books, consuming other information, all of that, will have you do that same task again to share, because I think that is always the most valuable thing, is the education piece, right? So for today's topic, we're kind of into a little bit of a summary now, but for today's topic, we really want to ask ourselves, and this is something I've done myself, who do you listen to? So I'm taking a pause there because this isn't to point fingers or blame or create judgment. It is simply to openly ask yourself that question. Write on it, type on it on your computer, talk out loud with, a spouse or someone else. And this can be around any point, but specifically for this context of this video, looking at with your spouse. So, hey honey, who are you listening to? Who are some people that you're inspired by, or that are fathers that you know, or people who are walking that process and maybe working on wanting to conceive themselves and their relationship, all those kinds of things. And you'll start to realize so many of the people that you are like constantly listening to maybe are not best for you to listen to right now. So again, we're always going back to the principles. Investigate all things and take what is good. So if you're looking at the overall picture, right, you have this whole image of what someone has shared with you. You might only take bits and pieces because you realize, well, this story was really helpful because they're actually someone who did an all-natural birth. They did a vaginal birth. They didn't take medication. They didn't do ultrasounds. And you're like, this is literally like my vision for our family, for our births, all of that, right? So you might take all of that from them, but then maybe in like all aspects of other parts of their life, you really just don't line up with your values or your vision. So you might not necessarily have to say, oh, I'm not going to listen to this person anymore. Like those things are bad or whatever. You just take bits and pieces and really start to become stable around